Hey family, welcome back to Underdogs Rise, the podcast where we rise together. I want to talk to you today about the responses of grief, and that it is not a weakness to feel grief. It's not a failure. It's not something just to get over. It's a response. A response to love, to connect. Because when we grieve, we're not just mourning a person. We're mourning routines, the memories, future conversations, and the version of ourselves that existed when they were here. But there has to be a point where we evolve and we change and we better ourselves despite the guilt, despite the grief, and despite the pain. Because love ran deep. And the deeper the love, the louder the echo when someone is gone. Grief is not linear. It does not move in neat stages. It is more like an ocean. Some days the water is calm, and some days the water hits you from nowhere. That is grief. And we live in a world that is so uncomfortable with pain. People want timelines, not lifelines. How are you doing? Are you feeling better yet? You need to move on. But grief doesn't work on society's schedule. Some of the wounds that we carry become part of us, and others transform. And that is a choice that we make. And maybe healing is not about removing the scar. Maybe healing is learning not to hate yourself for having one. It reveals what matters most. And somewhere in the middle of heartbreak, clarity can arrive. You begin to understand that time was never guaranteed. That every ordinary moment was sacred even when you didn't realise it. Those moments become priceless after loss. And one of the hardest parts about grief is that life keeps on moving. The world keeps on turning. We still have to go to work, we still have to pay our bills. And sometimes that can feel offensive. Because inside of you, the entire universe has changed. Every grief is unique because every love was just as unique. And grief isn't only about death. We can grieve friendships, relationships, dreams, versions of ourselves. Sometimes we can grieve the childhood we never had, or the love we never received, or the future we imagined but it never arrived. Grief can become a teacher. Not a teacher that we have chosen, but a teacher nonetheless. It teaches us self-compassion. It teaches us warmth. And it teaches us empathy. Because once you have truly suffered, you stop judging people so quickly. You begin to understand that everyone is carrying invisible battles. And most important of all, grief teaches us humility. It reminds us that we are human. And strangely enough, that awareness can make us and our lives more meaningful. Because when you realise that nothing lasts forever, you start loving more honestly. You stop waiting for perfect moments to tell someone that you care. Because love does have somewhere to go. It becomes memory, it becomes wisdom. It becomes the way you speak to others, it becomes the way you speak to yourself. The way that you just refuse to take ordinary moments for granted. Love transforms. The people that we lose continue shaping us long after they are gone. Sometimes I think that grief is the evidence that we need to show us that connection truly never dies once we make that choice. Because if love vanished completely, grief wouldn't exist. Your heart remembers everything. And remembrance is sacred. You can't just outrun grief by burying them in distractions, the noise, the work, the alcohol, the busyness. Because grief ignored does not disappear, it waits. Our healing begins when we allow ourselves to feel honestly, not to perform strength. Because real healing begins with truth and befriending the pain that comes with that. There is real courage in being honest with yourself. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need to rush the process of healing. You do not need to become who you were before the loss. Because you are not meant to go backwards. just as the world spins, we are all meant to move forwards, even if we have to crawl. Because grief, given the opportunity, can deepen us. It can open our hearts out wider, and it can burn illusion away and teach us what really matters. Because when you think about it, suffering is beautiful. Because our spirit, our human spirit, has an incredible ability to transform pain into meaning. And the meanings that we carry keeps us alive. Because our response to grief is not our weakness. It is love continuing to speak, even after goodbye. This is dedicated in loving memory towards my dad. May you rest in peace always, Dad. And now it's my turn to chase the monsters away. This is Underdogs Rise, and we rise together.